Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of our guests with us. It's a great day to come and worship. Thank you so much for coming and being with us this morning. We are honored that you are here, and we are privileged that you are here. Have you ever heard of E.J. Smith? Are you familiar with E.J. Smith? He was a very famous captain with the White Star Lines. He was born in Britain in 1850. He made a very famous statement, which goes like this: "But in all my experience, I have never been in any accident of any sort worth speaking about. I've seen but one vessel in distress in all my years at sea. I never saw a wreck, and never have been wrecked, nor was I ever in any predicament that threatened to end in disaster of any sort." He made this profound statement in 1907. The problem was, on April the 14th, 1912, the Titanic sank, and he was her captain. He had a little overestimation of how dangerous being a captain on a ship could be. He never saw what was coming, and he confidently moved forward thinking, there's no way that this ship could sink. You all know it didn't end that way. Now, a lot of times when people think about bad days, you never see bad days coming when you wake up. You never wake up and say, I just know this is going to be a terrible day. Or you never put on your calendar, on the 22nd of July, today will be a bad day. Let me prepare for that. And so for us to deal with bad days, sometimes we need to have certain skills to do so. Because when a bad day happens, it can get worse really quick. You wonder where bad days come from. Do we create them in our minds? Do they just have this cosmic power behind it where everything and everybody seems to be against you? Do you just have bad luck? But where does this idea of a bad day, where did it start, and how is it such a part of our culture today? A bad day is something that can start okay and it gets worse. You know what I'm talking about. Let's say you have an appointment, and so you are about to leave the door, and then all of a sudden the baby has done its business, and then all of a sudden you're late. You rush out the door and you see that the minivan tire is flat. You have no clue how to change a flat tire. Fortunately, as you are staring at the minivan, your neighbor sees you, comes over and says, "What's the matter? My tire is flat." And so the neighbor pumps it up for you and you head down the road. But you're speeding now, and then all of a sudden a police officer pulls you over and you're thinking, today's not going well. He gives you a ticket, but then you have to call. You cancel the appointment. It pushes you back. You do not end up eating with your husband. Your husband's annoyed because he was looking forward to eating with you. So now at supper, he picks a fight over the dress that you just bought, which he was fine with, but now he has it in his crawl. And then he's annoying you, and you are now annoying him. And then all of a sudden the toilet breaks. Now you're sharing one bathroom, and nobody is getting along. It could have all been avoided if you didn't spill your milk that you had in your cup because Roy didn't make you a cup yet. And that's what started it all. You think, how do some days just happen that way? Why do some days just go from bad to worse? So I want to talk about how we can overcome bad days. Paul had a bad day as well. Let's look at Acts chapter 21, verse 27 to 31. When the 7 days were almost completed, the Jews from Asia, seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd and laid hands on him, crying out, "Men of Israel, help! This is the man who is teaching everyone everywhere against the people and the law in this place. Moreover, he even brought Greeks into the temple and has defiled this holy place. For they had previously seen Trophimus, the Ephesian, with him in the city, and they supposed that he brought him into the temple. Then all the city was stirred up, and the people ran together. They seized Paul and dragged him out of the temple, and at once the gates were shut. And as they were seeking to kill him, word came to the tribune of the cohort that all Jerusalem was in confusion. This goes poorly. So the first skill in dealing with bad days is this. You got to realize that people will be people. A lot of bad days start and get worse because of the people around you. People are going to be people, and until you accept that, you're going to allow the bad day to perpetuate. Now look at Acts chapter 21, verse 27. When the 7 days were almost completed, the Jews from Asia, seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd and laid hands on him. Humanity has this ability to inflict pain on one another. Somebody who may be having a bad day, all of a sudden is super rude to you, cuts you off in traffic, and all of a sudden you're having a bad day. All of a sudden your attitude changes, and you are in a foul mood because somebody else was in a foul mood previously, and you interacted with them. You have allowed them to influence your perspective and how you view the day in front of you. So this one person who might have had a terrible start to their day causes you to be influenced by their actions, and it creates negativity in your view, in your perspective. You got to flip the switch on this. When you come in contact with somebody who is just in the kick-it-if mood of life, and they are just being foul, the last thing you need to do is be foul in return. You know what happens. Somebody's rude to you, and you know what you do? Lay on the horn. You know what you do? Say something mean back. In order for us to not allow bad days to perpetuate, we need to show grace and kindness in return. When you have the Captain Killjoy needs to meet Joyful Joyce, you need to be the person that doesn't allow other people to infect you with their bad day. You need to be the person who shows kindness, that shows patience, that shows love. And by doing so, you can create a lot less bad days in this world. My mother and my father are extreme opposites when it comes to this. My mother will call me on the phone, and my mother is retired now, and so she has lots of time to think about how people have done her wrong. Sometimes she's annoyed with me, and she calls me. She has way too much time to think these days. And somebody will say something to her. I don't even know what it is. She will be out in the store and say, well, somebody said that called me miss or Mrs. or ma'am. And it just drives her crazy. I'm not old. I said, Mother, they're just trying to be respectful. I'm not old. I look too young to be called ma'am. Now, there's a little Nova Scotia culture coming out here. And then it's everything else. And everybody else she meets that day annoys her. And I'm like, Mother, it's going to be okay. Not everybody's against you. Yeah, but they shouldn't have said that. Now, my father, on the other hand, he's very witty. And if you're mean to my father, he will twist it into a joke. And he's funny. If you tell him something that he thinks is a put down, he has this ability to flip it into a joke. And all of a sudden, he'll come home and tell you what happens. And now the whole family is laughing about what he said in back. Too often, we allow people who are mean to us ruin our days. Make a joke of it. Show some kindness. Be gracious in return. And you know what will happen? You will forget about it and just move on. The next way to deal with bad days is understanding this. Some misunderstandings will increase. Misunderstandings will increase. Look at Acts chapter 21, verse 28 to 30. Crying out, "Men of Israel, help! This man who is teaching everyone everywhere against the people and the law in this place. Moreover, he even brought Greeks into the temple and has defiled this holy place. For they had previously seen Trophimus the Ephesian with him in the city." And don't forget this, look at this. "And they knew," no, it doesn't say that. "They saw with their own eyes." No, it doesn't say that. "They supposed that Paul had brought him into the temple. Then all the city was stirred up, and the people ran together. They seized Paul and dragged him out of the temple, and at once the gates were shut." When you are having a bad day, and somebody else is having a bad day, it does something to your mind. It causes you to filter everybody else around you. You start filtering all that is happening through the paradigm of today is going to be terrible, and you start creating a bad day in your own head.